All right, this is Professor Homa. We're back for part 2 of the car loan payment. The last thing I did was use the PMT function to get, that's figuring out the interest divided by 12. I'm using the months, which is 48 months, and also the loan amount, and it's figuring out $322.41 a month is going to be my monthly payment. Now it's showing up in red right now, which means it's a negative number. To change that, if I put a minus sign in front of PMT after the equals, and I'll just hit enter, that'll show that as a positive number. So that's just a little thing you have to do there. Just put a minus sign in front of that. We also did that with the mortgage one. So these are my payments. $322.41 a month is now my payment. Now if I want to figure out how much I'm paying in interest and what the total, I'll have to know the total cost of the loan. So a couple things we'll figure out, and that's just a good idea. So if you're calculating, you can know that, well, if I do it over 60 months, it'll be a little different, or if I put this much down, it might affect the interest that I'm paying, because you don't want to pay a lot in interest. You want to cut down your interest as much as you can. So what I'm going to do now, I think we're up to number 6 on our worksheet. We're going to figure out the total interest that will be paid over the course of the loan. So what I'm going to do here is I'll take my number of payments, which is the $322.41, or cell C11, and I'll go in here and I'll figure this out. I'll go equals sum, and then in parentheses, the first thing I'm going to do is do the number of payments, which is 48, times, and actually I don't want to do that again. I keep putting in 48. I should put in the cell reference C9, because if we change that, then that'll update based on what we put in. So I'm going to put in C9, which is my months, times my monthly payment, which is the $322, which is C11, and then I'm going to subtract the amount of the loan, which is actually the $14,000, which is C10, and it'll do the multiplication first, then subtract the other. So what I'm doing is just taking my, if you had a payment book that each one said $322.41 times 48, you would get an amount. And if you subtracted the $14,000, which is your loan amount, you'd see what your interest is, and that's what we're going to do. So our interest, after doing all that, is $1475.69. So we can just add that for this total cost. If we see the total cost over the loan, we could have done that beforehand, but we could also go here and make a formula that says equals, and this is number 7 on the sheet, equals sum, and we're just going to add C10 and C12 together. So we're just going to add the loan amount and the interest to see what we're going to be paying over the course of our payments. So we're just adding that $1475. So it shouldn't be a surprise of what it is, but I am going to put that in so that we can recalculate if we change our numbers. So I'm going to put in C10, and then I could put in plus, or I can put a comma. As long as if there's a comma between them, it'll add them as well. So I'll put in C10, comma, and we're just adding them together. Or I'll put plus, so it makes more sense. C10 plus C12, and I'll put in parentheses, and I'll hit return, and that's showing me that's how much I'd be paying over the loan. So even though it's $14,000 with interest, I'd be paying $15,475.69, and these numbers got added into here. So we have just cell numbers that are just pulling values just to see if you got that right. So then on your sheet that you have 4 questions at the end that'll ask you to figure some things out. So one thing I'll do is I'll do a little calculation here just to figure out if we're going to do a 10% down payment. We could do a little calculation here to figure out what that is based on if the initial sale price changes. So in here I'm just going to put a quick formula. It just says equal sum, and then in parentheses the sale price, which is cell C4, and I'll put C4, and then I'll put multiply, which is the asterisk, times 0.10, which is 10%, and I'll hit return, and that's telling me that if I put 10% down on this vehicle, it would be $1,800. Now we'll be asked a couple questions to figure that out. Okay, so I'll go over those questions. Actually, I'm going to stop right here. The last thing I'll do in part 3 is I'll just go over those questions, which will be really quick. So again, what we just finished up here was the total. We did the PMT on the last one. We made it positive number by putting the minus sign. We figured out our interest, and then we also figured out a total cost of the loan. So I'll stop here.